Max Strus 3 rimmed out with just seconds left in the game, but it was the previous 48 minutes of sloppy, inconsistent play that was the real problem for Miami. The Heat shot poorly, turned the ball over too much. It couldn't handle Cleveland's size. The game played in the mud, according to Erik Spoelstra, and we break down what made it so dirty on today's episode of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. I'm Wes Goldberg here with David Ramil. Thank you for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day and for subscribing on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get the show. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Despite missing 21 of 28 three-point attempts and turning the ball over 24 times, the Miami Heat still had a chance to pull out a win, but poor decision-making late and more missed shots kept the Miami Heat from overtaking the Cavs. They lose 104-100. But let's just recap the last few possessions here, David. Starting the fourth quarter, down 7. Let's fast forward then to the last couple minutes. Tyler Herro steals the ball, finds Caleb Martin streaking down the court. He gets a dunk. The Heat are then down by 1 with 2 minutes left. Oladipo takes a contested 3 on the next possession from the same place that he made the one against Atlanta the other night. With 5 seconds left on the clock, didn't hate that shot from Oladipo considering that there wasn't much else left in that possession. The Heat got the rebound on that. Butler misses a push shot. Cavs get the ball back. Darius Garland goes down the other way, makes a tough fall away 15-footer. The Cavs go up 100-97. On the next possession, Victor Oladipo misses a step-back three-pointer early in the shot clock. Cavs bring it back down. Isaac Okoro hits a tough bank shot. Cavs go back up by 5. Bam misses a tough fadeaway jumper on the other end. The Heat kind of play the foul game a little bit. Cleveland has a 5-second violation. Heat get the ball back. And Tyler Herro finds somehow Caleb Martin on the other side of the court, cross-court pass, nails Caleb Martin, Caleb Martin finds Tyler Herro. Herro gets the ball in the corner, drills a three-pointer from there. The Heat are down by 2 at that point. Jarrett Allen goes to the line because the Heat foul him intentionally. He misses one, makes one. Heat are down by 3. All right, so now we've only got a few seconds left. Tyler Herro brings the ball up. Jimmy Butler sets this down screen for Max Strus on like the wing corner area, and Strus gets the ball from Tyler Herro. Strus lifts, takes a shot, misses the shot. That shot would have tied the game with 4 seconds left. At that point, the game is basically over. So, David, another clutch game for the Miami Heat, another clutch loss for the Miami Heat. Where did you think this one went wrong?
At the start. Right away, Miami had a problem manufacturing any kind of offense. You know that going up against Cleveland with their incredible front court of Mobley and Allen, that there's an incredible amount of size that Miami would have to overcome. And that seemed to bog down everything that Miami was trying to do. They couldn't attack the paint. They weren't doing so successfully because of Allen's size or Mobley, their challenging defenders. And then it was just they were forcing the ball to the perimeter. And unfortunately, again, Miami's three-point shooting woes continued to crop up on the night, just 8 of 29 from the field, from the three-point range specifically. So it just slowed down completely. Miami, Erik Spoelstra before the game said, this is a game that has to be played perfectly in order to come out with a win here. For Miami, there was no sense of perfection whatsoever. They're just not good enough at this point to be able to get into these kind of deficits against a very good team, especially on a night when nobody was hot from the field. There wasn't any one player that was particularly effective or efficient from the field. And without, like, say, the other night, it was Duncan Robinson stepping up, Victor Oladipo stepping up. Tonight, none of those players were available, or at least Robinson didn't even play, but they weren't effective or efficient from the field. And there just wasn't anybody who you could just dump the ball into and help them manufacture offense at a point where Miami really needed it. So I think it was just an all game long kind of bogged down. It just didn't seem very fluid. Chris Manning of Locked On Cavs said this felt playoff-esque. I don't know if I agree with that. I thought it just felt kind of sloppy from both
Yeah.
teams, with Miami being particularly sloppy, especially with their 24 turnovers.
24 turnovers for 29 points for the Cavaliers. I mean, that's the game right there. The Heat, part of their formula is winning the possession battle. They didn't. The Cavs took 10 more shots than the Heat did. The Heat got 70 shots. The Cavs got 80. That's because of the turnovers. The Heat even got 10 offensive rebounds, which is a high number for any team, including the Miami Heat. But yeah, it was a sloppy game. I do think that the Cavs get a lot of credit for forcing those turnovers.
Yes.
I didn't see like a lot of stuff that the Heat necessarily did wrong. There was a couple of like bad passes and things like that's going to happen over the course of any basketball game. But for those 24 turnovers, I give more credit to the Cavs than blame to the Heat. They had a hard time with their length. They had a hard time with the Cavs' length and
trying to thread the needle a little too often. A number of times ball handlers would curl around the baseline, try to dump it to a cutter or something along those lines in the dunker spot. It just wasn't effective. Again, because you have either Okoro or Mobley or somebody else just kind of poking the ball there.
Right.
It was not a.
It goes hand in hand with what you said earlier. Like when the offense is so inefficient and you're not getting anything from the outside, then you're forced to kind of get the ball to the inside, and then that's where all those long limbs come into play for Cleveland. 108 combined points in the paint tonight. This entire game was played in the paint. It felt like both teams didn't really shoot well from the perimeter. The Heat shot 27.6%. They missed 21 of their 29 threes. And the Cavs shot 9 of 28, so 32% for them. So not much better. Not much better at all for the Cavs. So I think that was part of it. This game was begging for somebody to just take over. Like it was begging for one of the Heat's guards to take over. I would probably say that it had to be Tyler Herro.
Absolutely.
Tyler Herro had a good game, but he didn't have 22 points on 7 of 15 shooting, 4 of 8 from 3-point range. Like it was a good Tyler Herro game, but it wasn't a game. It wasn't a takeover Tyler Herro game either. And they needed not a good one. They needed a takeover one. And Tyler Herro couldn't. I'm not blaming Tyler Herro, but like that's Tyler Herro's job. He's really the only guy that could do that. Jimmy Butler passed up how many, like 2 or 3 open 3-pointers. He's just not. It's not part of his game. Ditto for Bam Adebayo. And I don't know. It's just Spo said that this is a game that was going to be played in the mud. It was. The Heat were within a possession at the end. It was another clutch game. They had a chance to win this one, but it felt like a minor miracle that they were even in it that late.
No, yeah, absolutely. I would have guessed that Cleveland would have been able to pull away from Miami. It didn't seem to have any kind of consistency, any fluidity to their offense. For them to be there, I don't know. They got a couple calls go their way. They got just enough offense. Look, Cleveland's offense bogged down in the fourth quarter too. They only scored 17 points, 18 points from Miami. Miami was able to get to the free throw line a little bit more often. That was just enough to kind of close that deficit there and keep it as close as it was. But it's just too little too late. And again, if they had been able to do something consistently on offense throughout the game and maybe get that big shot from Tyler, there were a couple of shots there from Tyler that, felt like they could have been momentum builders. If he had hit them, maybe he gets on a roll because we've seen him be ignitable on offense. Similarly with Victor Oladipo, there were a number of possessions there.
Well, let's talk about Victor Oladipo because that's kind of what I was hinting at when I went through that recap to start. The thing that's jumping out in that sort of play-by-play that I went over is Victor Oladipo's decision-making. It's problematic. I know we're going to do blame pie here in a minute, but the Victor Oladipo thing, we said this after the last game against the Hawks. Like, it's just a roller coaster with him. He just freelances so much out there, especially on offense. And I don't know if it's him just trying to prove that he could still be the guy that he was with the Indiana Pacers. I don't really know what it is. But that missed step back 3-pointer that he took, the contested one before that, some of the decisions that he was making, there was a weird kind of, he tried to dump it off into Jimmy, who was cutting baseline, but there's like 2 Cavaliers in front of him late in the game. Like the decision-making was just at an all-time bad for him. And he's part of the closing lineup because of his defense, but the offense is becoming a real concern. And as much as he hits back-to-back threes against Atlanta and you're like, wow, it's Victor Oladipo. What a great story. I'm so happy for him. And I am. And I'm very happy for him that he's able to play. And he even had moments in this game earlier. But
yes,
it's very, very problematic late. And if you have a guy that's out there trying to prove something against the grain of what it is that the Miami Heat are trying to accomplish, that is a problem. I don't know if the Heat have a better option. They did not have a better option tonight. Maybe we can get into that a little bit later. But the Victor Oladipo thing, I don't, as much, like I said, as much as you like the Hawks thing, I don't think it's worth it based on like I focus more on the process than the results. And sometimes we're a very results-based sort of media industry. And the result of the Atlanta game was, wow, Victor Oladipo, what a great game, great story. But the process wasn't great either. Like those weren't great decisions that he was making in the Atlanta game. And he made basically the same decisions at the end of this one. But instead of those shots going in, they did not go in. And you could argue it cost the Heat the game late.
Yeah, there were a couple of possessions there where I had no idea what he was going to do next. Even late in the game, he drives into the painted area there, has Jared Allen on him, but he gets just enough separation from him and then just inexplicably holds the ball, dumps it back off.
He holds it too long.
And dumps the ball, gets it back, and then rather than taking an 18, 20-footer, says, you know what, I'm going to step back even further on a night when my shot's not falling at all and take a 23-foot three-pointer. I was watching that, and I said to myself, after that last shot, some other media members were kind of kidding about it, but I just packed up and left because I knew there was a done deal at that point after seeing that shot selection. 5 turnovers on the night. No sense exactly of what he was going to do or how he was going to do it. And I couldn't figure it out. I thought when he hit that first three-pointer, the first three-point attempt, which was actually called, it was waved off because he had stepped out of bounds. I thought, we're going to get another fluid night from Victor, where he's feeling it again. That was not the case at all.
Well, I'm sure he's going to come up again when we get to Blame Pie. Plus, which starter is the most to blame? We'll tell you who it is next. But first, David, tell listeners about our sponsor.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Nissan's most electric player of the week. Brought to you by the all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Ariya. Well, guess what? Not a lot to choose from, but after a strong performance against the Atlanta Hawks and 2 consecutive wins, and even a big night tonight against the Cleveland Cavaliers, no mistaking who the electric player of the week is. It's Jimmy Butler. To hop on a flight to Los Angeles for the honor of watching Pau Gasol's jersey hang in the rafters, somehow fly back late this morning, and then be able to attend tonight's game and play at such a high level. That's electricity, efficiency, whatever you want to call it, all the different things that make the Ariya such a fantastic vehicle. It's incredible. If you haven't seen them, I haven't seen many on the road, but I think that's something that we're going to see change over the next few months because it is incredible, really elegant, powerful, just a great car, the perfect SUV crossover. Jimmy stats, I don't know if it's worth really getting into.
Sure, 15-11-7 against Atlanta, 26-10-9 against Atlanta, and then tonight, 28-5-5 against
walking triple-double almost. Not quite Nikola Jokic, but he's up there. Anyway, the 2023 Nissan Ariya packs pin-to-your-seat power and premium intelligence all in one EV, the all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Ariya, the EV for people who love to drive. Shop now at nissanusa.com.
Locked On Heat is available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so please do subscribe. Well, that smell you smell is a smelly smell of another smelly loss, David. So it's time to hand out some blame pie. Let's start where we left off. Victor Oladipo.
He gets a fair share of it, that's for sure.
5?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I really do. I like you could pick at some of the other things that other players did, but the sum totality of the head shaking moments from Oladipo tonight, I think, warrant that. It really is unfortunate. I hate to bag on Victor like that because great guy.
Yeah,
he had fun in the locker room.
Yeah,
most part.
It's representative of where the Miami Heat are at, right? Because if Victor Oladipo was playing like that and making those kinds of decisions, then the Heat would just be like, "All right, you're out of here. You know, the shot's not going in.
You said you're
a negative.
Who else do you go to though?
Who else can you go to? And I know some fans might be like, "Oh yeah, he's a +4 in the box score." I don't care about that.
I don't know. I don't even know how that turns out.
No, look. And look, I don't think a lot of fans are going to say that because based on the Twitter mentions, people are all on top of Vic too. But look, it's representative of where the Miami Heat are at because they just need somebody to do something. And we're going to get into more blame pie where there's just a lot of guys doing nothing. So at least with the Victor Oladipo thing, there's a variance there that could swing a game. And Victor Oladipo is not the reason the Miami Heat lost this game. But the decision making but he's a big part of it. And the decision making at the end is really tough. And I wonder, like, why can't you have both, right? Like, why can't you have the open 3-pointers that he makes like he made earlier? He made a couple open ones and they look good. When he steps into them in the flow of the offense, he can make that shot. I have no question that he has made that shot his whole career, basically. But these step back threes and sometimes like these step back long twos and like these wild passes, and you mentioned the holding onto the ball too long. if he were to just embrace being a role player, and
Oh.
I know that that's the hard part, right? Now we get into like mortality of an NBA player and all the mental things that go into that. But if he were to hypothetically embrace being a role player and make quick decisions and keep the ball moving, what he can do in that regard is so far and away better than what Miami's other role players can do, because he's somebody that can attack off of a closeout. He can make those threes. He can play great defense. He can get steals. He can do all these things. Like, he would be like almost another version of Caleb Martin, right? But with maybe even more, certainly more ball skills. Yeah. Like, if he were that, I think he would be a huge positive for the Heat. But when he freelances on offense like this, it's just a problem, and it really did sink Miami late in this game.
His game's always thrived on this incredible athleticism, and he's been sapped of it. And while now he's getting it back, or at least a shade of it, I'd say maybe he's like 85% of what he once was, but the shot's just not falling, and he just doesn't know how to blend the athleticism that has come back to him with the realization that he's no longer so explosive that he can just finish over other players. He's not the player he was 4 or 5 seasons ago when he was an all-star.
And he's not gonna be, right? Like, he's also he's 32 years old or whatever he is. Like,
I remember talking to him in preseason in the locker room after a preseason loss, and he was dejected because he was coming off the bench and he was having a hard time with that change in role because he fully expected to go into the season as a starter.
Yeah.
And for him to have to adjust to now coming off the bench and then to find a way to flourish, he suffered through an injury also early on the season. I just don't think he's ever come to that conclusion. It was a good point that you bring up, that he's facing his mortality as a player. He doesn't know how to make that change. We talk about it with Russell Westbrook all the time. Why Miami, maybe he wasn't a good fit in Miami because he can't seem to figure out that a change is necessary. He's no longer the player he once was. And now it's up to him to embrace a new role, and I don't think he's ready for it.
Which is strange because he's got the player option for next year. So he's got the $9+ million in the bag if he wants it. So it's
regardless.
Right.
Why bother changing then?
Right. Well, I suppose, but I guess the way I looked at it is you got the $9 million, just play your role. Just go out there. Like, you don't have to prove anything. It's not necessarily a contract year for you, but maybe he's like, maybe I can get more than $9 million, because he also passed up a lot of money when he didn't take that first extension before he got hurt.
For a second. If he's freelancing now when it's not a contract year, what's he going to do next?
Unless that's what I'm saying. Unless he might be thinking about this as a contract year, but dude, there's like 15 games left. It's kind of, unless you're going to go score 40 a night for the rest of the way. Like, I don't know that there's much that you could change here. Let's move on. The starter who I think let the Heat down the most was Gabe Vincent. Big old goose egg in points, goose egg in rebounds, had a couple assists, but did have 2 turnovers. So that's not the ratio that you're looking for there. Played just 18.5 minutes. Took 1 shot. I think that 1 shot came in the third quarter.
Yeah,
and
you pointed it out to me.
I looked at you. I was like, is that his first shot? Yeah, and it was. I credit the Cavaliers for a lot in this game. I don't credit them for that, because their game plan, I could promise you, was not to keep Gabe Vincent out of the game. Like, that was not their game plan. And on a night where they were doubling Jimmy Butler, basically as soon as Jimmy put his first dribble, they were sending a second body to Jimmy. They were packing the paint in front of Bam. They were daring Miami's shooters to beat them. The Miami shooters did not beat them. Like, there was opportunities, I thought, for Gabe Vincent, and he wasn't able to maximize it. So it was an ineffective night for him.
Yeah, no, that sums it up pretty well. Like, he just didn't do anything. They had him. You pointed it out to me as well, that the guards were setting a lot of screens for Jimmy, trying to get him involved in these actions, and maybe that might have taken a toll on him physically. But either way, he didn't seem like he could figure out a way to get his shot off. Credit to Cleveland for closing out on Gabe whenever he was on the perimeter, or for collapsing on him as he was trying to drive into the paint. But it just seemed like he was removing himself out of the offense more than anything else.
Another one for Max Strus. Another tough shooting night for him. 2 of 8 from 3-point range. All of his shots were for 3-point range, which I actually liked. I prefer that he does that, especially against the Cavaliers team that's going to pack the paint with long arms and bodies. Like, you got no chance to score in the paint if you're Max Strus. So I like the fact that he was taking the threes. I didn't mind the shot selection at all, really. But for him, he's got to make them, man. And it's just, I feel like we keep saying it. With Duncan Robinson out of the rotation, you are the designated 3-point specialist, and you got to make them. So 1 slice of blame pie for him.
Yeah, at least. I mean, yeah that's fair.
I got 1 more. So
okay,
that's it.
Anybody else?
Bam.
Only
The
one
foul trouble
rebound?
was early. The foul trouble. He ended up with how many did he end up? 5 fouls. He ended up with 4 really early, and then picking up another one late. He was effective when he was on the court, but he was only on the court for a little bit less than 29 minutes. That's 8 minutes less than what he usually plays, and that's because of the foul trouble. And so I think you could argue with just look at the net ratings, like look at all the cleaning the glass stuff, whatever metric you want to pull up. Like when Bam's on the court, the Heat are a positive, and so you could argue those 8 minutes where he was on the bench instead of being on the court because of the foul trouble, given that the Heat only lost by 4 points, that could have swung the game too. So I think that Bam picking up those early fouls, I think he deserves a slice of blame pie.
I don't know. It's hard for me to justify that because I don't think the fouls were merited necessarily, but we can't.
But he got
debate that. He picked them up regardless, so that's fine.
Right.
He was gonna have a tough time trying to attack Mobley and/or Allen anyway. So I guess he tried to make the most of whatever opportunity he had, but it was not enough.
Well, guess what? Another loss means more questions about Erik Spoelstra's rotations, which, as you know, is my least favorite subject. But maybe this one actually has a point. We're going to get to that next. But first, David, tell listeners about our sponsors.
Today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Pro Basketball GM. I am really excited about our new partner and sponsor of today's episode, the mobile game Ultimate Pro Basketball GM. If you've ever dreamed of becoming an NBA GM and managing your basketball franchise, well, your dream can come true. And this game is definitely for you. Manage every strategic aspect of your team, play through the season, and lead your team to glory. You're responsible for hiring the right coaches and assistants, trading and training players, making draft picks, navigating your franchise through free agency, the draft, and all the ups and downs of the season. All this in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Pro Basketball GM is completely free and playable offline. Play on the go as you want, when you want to. Locked On listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when you use the promo code Locked On in the game store. So make sure to check it out. To download the game, just visit probasketballgm.com, scan the code, or look it up in the App Store. That's probasketballgm.com. Ultimate Basketball GM. Start your dynasty today. Today's episode is also brought to you by Built. If you're looking for a delicious treat and you don't want any of the fat and calories, then you've got to try Built Bar. We just got through the holidays. So many people making resolutions. You want to eat healthy, then you've got to incorporate Built Bars into your diet because with Built, healthy is actually tasty. Why? Because they're 100% covered in real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond, and so many more. I don't know how Built does it, but they do. Only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugars with a whopping 17 grams of protein. For years, we've been telling you to go to Built.com to get your order, but now you can go to your local Walmart or Sam's Club, get a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs, or go to Sam's Club and run in, grab a 13-bar box of our hit flavors. Plus, you can still get yours at Built.com, but just make sure you get your Built Bars today.
Reach Locked On Heat on Twitter, Instagram. You can email us, lockedonheat@gmail.com. Let's get to our listener questions from those who wrote them in using the hashtag AskLOHeat. This one comes from Joshua, who writes in, why are we relying on Victor Oladipo and Max Strus with Duncan Robinson on the bench? It makes no sense to not give him some minutes to shoot. Strus has been awful. Oladipo is clearly in his own head tonight.
Fair point.
We saw Duncan Robinson give him some valuable minutes against Atlanta the other night. He was a DNP-CD tonight, which has been more of the norm for him. You and I asked, like, going into this game in the Heat's prior 5 games, the Heat were shooting 50 or 40% from 3-point range. And we asked the question, do we think this is going to be sustainable? And you and I both came to the conclusion of we have no freaking clue.
Right.
And on a night where Vic is taking bad contested threes, Strus is getting blamed pie for not making his shots. And this team, and like we said, you are just desperate to open up the paint, man. Like with the Cavs packing the paint and everything happening in that area, this game was desperate for the floor to just be loosened up a little bit. I don't know. Why not play Duncan Robinson a little bit?
Well, I think part of it is also the fact that, as you pointed out earlier, Bam wasn't available for a lot of time due to foul trouble. You know, the synergy between Bam and Duncan is pretty obvious. No running dribble handoffs if Bam's not even on the floor. So maybe Spo didn't even consider it. The trade-off also is one of the defensive issue. You know, he's going to give up a lot of points. He doesn't have the speed or lateral quickness to contend with a Darius Garland or certainly not a Donovan Mitchell. So maybe there's a liability there.
I know, but they hid Max Strus on Isaac Okoro and these kinds of guys too. And I didn't think the Cavs did a great job of hunting that mismatch. Like you could bring Okoro in and get him on a switch and attack that. I didn't think that Garland or Mitchell really did a whole lot of that. And I don't know. I think if you're the coaching staff and you see that, like, okay, this is obviously not part of their game plan. They're trying to get it into the paint, into their bigs and stuff like that. Like, I don't know.
It felt like they could have used the boost offensively.
Yeah.
To my point in the first quarter, like you're not getting anybody that's feeling it, that's got the hot streak going. And Duncan, ignitable, he can be that player. Like if he just hits a couple threes, he sees that first one drop, next thing you know, he could be good for 3 or 4. That's a difference maker on a night when you're not getting any kind of production from beyond the arc too. So
should they have gone with a little bit more, or not a little bit more, any Omer Yurtseven? We still yet to see Omer. He's been back up with Miami for a couple of games now, another DNP-CD. Bam got into the foul trouble early, and I had the question, like, maybe we do see Omer Yurtseven because Bam got 2 fouls early. Then Cody Zeller got 2 fouls early. Cody Zeller only ended up with those 2 fouls, right? No, he had one more late. But Cody Zeller played 19 minutes. He played more than 19 minutes tonight and wasn't very productive. He had 3 points, 8 rebounds, sorry. I don't know, on a night where you need some productivity.
I liked his minutes because
I didn't mind the minutes. They weren't bad minutes.
No, he wasn't responsible for scoring. You know, he's provided a boost on offense on occasion, but his rebounding was huge, particularly going up against Jared Allen. I think that matchup was one that Miami could have taken advantage of, especially when Bam was having trouble. Like, look, you've got 2 legitimate 7-footers out there for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and you've got Bam Adebayo, the best defender in your team, the most complete defender in your team, and he's switching on to a smaller guard. He's guarding Donovan Mitchell. He's forcing Donovan Mitchell into bad shots. He was at least a big part of why Mitchell struggled tonight. But then you're giving up a lot of size in the painted area, and next thing you know, you've got a Jared Allen dunk, or Evan Mobley driving the baseline and dunking it on Gabe Vincent or Max Strus or whoever had the misfortune of being switched on to him. It's an opportunity for a big maybe to at least have a steadying presence, but we've seen Spoke go too often to that small lineup, and he thought it was going to be effective tonight. And maybe, again, is it the fact that they gave up these easy looks to Cleveland's bigs, or the fact that they just couldn't hit their threes? If they hit a couple of threes and they win tonight's game, do we even talk about the fact that they went small in the night when maybe they could have used somebody with like a Yurtseven or Zeller a little bit more? I don't know. It's hard to tell.
I have no problem with the closing lineup at all. And look, you go back and see some of the shots that Cleveland made. I mean, Garland making that tough fall away 15-footer. Isaac Okoro all of a sudden making like a bank shot out of nowhere in the paint. Like those were tough shots. Like that Garland 15-footer, he had no business making that shot, but he's a scorer, man. That guy can hoop. And so they made some really tough shots that won the game. And ultimately, I do give the Cavs more credit here. And the Heat lost to a better team. Like the Cavaliers are the better team. Like
they can't afford to take these. I mean, look, I thought they were.
It was a chance. They had the chance late. They can't. They have another chance on Friday. I do want to just get to one more thing here.
Sure.
Kyle Lowry went through some pregame warm-up routines and stuff like that. It feels like he's nearing a return, even though we have no real timetable, and Spo continues to refuse to answer those questions. But he did offer the fact that, hey, Lowry is warming up and stuff like that, and that is more progress. My question is, if and when Kyle Lowry comes back, whose minutes do you think he takes? Because I don't think that they're going to go to a 10-man rotation. I think they're going to want to stay at 9. Yeah. And then even come playoff time, they might even try to shorten it to 8. But we'll see. But whose minutes do you think he takes?
I think it's Gabe.
I think you're right.
I mean, if your shooting is already so problematic, you need a Max out there. You're not going to Duncan. He's not going to play. Yurtseven's likely not going to play for the rest of the season because Zeller's already on the team. I don't think you're going to bench Love altogether, although that's a possibility. I mean,
no. They're going to keep starting Kevin Love at this point.
I guess you're right, but I mean, look, I keep thinking about the 2019-20 season. You started Myers Leonard, and then he didn't play at all in the playoffs, or rarely played because he was taken out. But
they had other options. They had other options. This team. I think you're right. I think it's going to be Gabe Vincent. I think he's going to go from starter to out of the rotation because the other thing too is that they've basically already set the table for that. I know a lot of the attention has been on staggering Jimmy and Bam. Yeah. They've also been staggering Gabe and Tyler to make sure one of their ball handlers are on the court at all times.
Before.
And so
it's happened to Gabe specifically.
Oh yeah, Gabe's been in and out.
He's been in and out. He's been from starter to not playing for a handful of games and then being called upon to step up in Kyle Lowry's absence. last season, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
I think he got that opportunity, and he made the most of it, which is why a lot of people were encouraged by his return this season. But we'll see how it plays out.
Well, that's the update. Heat lose. Hawks win tonight, so the Heat lose ground in the loss column by another game. So there's that at the number 7 seed.
Jimmy Butler saying he does not watch the standings. He does not look at the standings, asking media members in his post-game press conference whether or not he was in the play-in. Or he said, I assume we're in the play-in. Is that right? And he looked to us and was like, yeah. Like, do you find that hard to believe?
Yeah, that's true. That's a lie. That's not true.
Right?
Yeah, that's a lie.
Interesting.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Remember to subscribe to new episodes of Locked On Heat on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Ring the bell to get notified as soon as new episodes go up. Now make your second listen game-to-game NBA every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On NBA or Locked On Game-to-Game covers every game from across the NBA with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game-to-Game on Locked On NBA. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. David, thanks for joining me.
You got it, Wes.